You know, obviously he has so many continents. He's one of the best basketball players in the world ever. So, you know, he just told me, be you.
I remember seeing like an iconic line where he said, don't fit in.
You don't fit in.
Don't fit in. LeBron James just dropped a bombshell about Luka Doncic in a way that nobody saw coming. And coming right off the heels of the explosive Bronny controversy that set the internet on fire, this quiet moment, it feels heavy. It feels dangerous. What Luka is revealing here is not trash talk or cheap praise. It sounds like a warning, and fans are convinced it is the master key to understanding the chaos that is about to unfold. We are talking about the trade that shattered the NBA. Let us rewind the tape to the night of February 1st. 2025, the basketball world was dead asleep. Silence. Absolute calm. Nobody saw the storm clouds gathering. Not a single soul had a clue. And then, boom. Like a lightning bolt striking from a clear blue sky, the Dallas Mavericks pulled the trigger on arguably the most shocking, earth-shattering trade in the entire history of the National Basketball Association. They shipped Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff F. Morris straight to the Los Angeles Lakers in a massive, complex three-team blockbuster that also dragged the Utah Jazz into the mix. Going back to Dallas, the Brow himself, Anthony Davis, along with Max Christie and a 2029 first-round pick. Meanwhile, the Jazz walked away with Jalen Hood-Schifino and a couple of second-round scraps. And just like that, the entire hierarchy of the league was incinerated and rebuilt overnight. Now, I need you to really sit with this for a second. Luka Doncic was 25 years old when this deal went down. 25. He was a perennial MVP frontrunner. He had just dragged the Mavericks kicking and screaming to the NBA Finals the season prior. This is the kind of guy that every single general manager in the league viewed as untouchable, God tier. You do not trade a generational weapon like that. You just don't. And yet, the whispers suggest something darker. Reports indicate that Mavericks GM Nico Harrison cut this deal in the shadows, negotiating secretly with Lakers executive Rob Pelinka. He never even shopped Doncic to the rest of the league. No bidding war to drive up the price, no leverage plays, nothing. Just a late-night phone call and a handshake that will go down in history as one of the most baffling, controversial decisions in modern sports. So, what was the logic? The spin coming out of Dallas claimed it was about conditioning. They claimed it was about defense. They pointed fingers at Doncic's weight, reportedly ballooning up to 270 pounds. They cited recurring calf issues and a supposed refusal to follow the team's training regimen. Nico Harrison went on record doubling down on the old adage that defense wins championships and positioned Anthony Davis as the superior two-way force who could truly anchor their future next to Kyrie Irving. But here is the reality check that everybody and their mother was screaming at the time. Critics, analysts, diehard fans, even rival players, they all smelled a rat. They said these reasons sounded like frantic excuses cooked up after the ink was dry. Because when you possess a 25-year-old offensive god, you do not swap him for a 31-year-old big man with a medical file as thick as a phone book. The math simply does not add up. And the fallout? Oh, the fallout was apocalyptic. NBA players across the association described the trade as absolute blasphemy, calling it the single dumbest move ever made and a stain on modern history. Stars like Anthony Edwards and half the Knicks roster were publicly losing their minds in disbelief. Anonymous polls showed total confusion inside the locker rooms. Why move a young king for that return? In Dallas, it got ugly. Fans organized riots outside the American Airlines Center, chanting "Fire Nico" at the top of their lungs, while security ejected people for holding anti-Harrison signs. It even spiraled into death threats directed at the GM, which is obviously crossing the line, no matter how catastrophic the trade might be. Luka? He was blindsided, completely left in the cold. He found out he was traded by scrolling through social media, arguably the most disrespectful, gut-wrenching way to learn you have been evicted from your own kingdom. He later described the smear campaign coming from Dallas as painful, though he took the high road and refused to fire back publicly. But insiders say the bridge is burned. He reportedly hasn't spoken a word to Nico Harrison since. There is deep resentment there, especially regarding the massive financial hit lost. endorsement money, and supermax extensions tied to Dallas that vanished in an instant. We are talking about losses potentially exceeding $100 million. And then there is the king. LeBron James was reportedly just as shocked as the rest of us. Zero prior knowledge, zero involvement. Insiders at ESPN described LeBron as stunned, walking around in total disbelief for days after the news broke. Neither he nor AD got a courtesy call. LeBron himself later admitted that in his entire 22-year legendary career, he had never witnessed a transaction this bizarre. You know, obviously, the man drips with confidence. He is on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. So when he told me, "BU," it hit different. I remember seeing that clip, that iconic line where he said, "Don't fit in, don't fit in." That was Luka revealing the very first words LeBron spoke to him in Los Angeles. BU. Don't fit in. That simple. 3-word message tells you everything you need to know about LeBron's mindset. He wasn't the puppet master behind the curtain. He wasn't pulling strings with Rich Paul. He was a stunned participant who, once the smoke cleared, decided to unleash a new monster by welcoming his teammate with open arms. Before the ink even dried on the contract that changed the NBA landscape forever, there were whispers, dark, unconfirmed rumors about a secret dialogue with the Boston Celtics. We now know the Lakers were desperate, actively shopping Anthony Davis, and they initiated high-stakes exploratory calls with Boston's front office, directly challenging Brad Stevens to make a move. Stevens played it cool, responding non-committally to the offer, but sources suggest he was privately intrigued, haunted by the ghost of their failed pursuit of Davis during that explosive 2019 trade saga. But let's be clear, those talks hit a dead end fast. The Celtics refused to pull the trigger on an aggressive offer, and the momentum swung violently toward Dallas, setting the stage for the Luka Doncic era. Despite the frantic speculation on Twitter, absolutely zero credible sources indicate that Luka Doncic was ever truly on the table for the Boston Celtics. There is no paper trail, no leaked emails, and no verified reporting anywhere on Earth that suggests a deal sending the Slovenian magician to the Garden was ever imminent. But even though the Boston connection turned out to be smoke and mirrors, the trade that actually went down was nothing short of a nuclear event for the league. And listen closely, because everything that has spiraled out of control since every screaming match, every headline, every ounce of toxic tension in that locker room traces back to this single ground zero moment. Luka meets Los Angeles, and the foundation begins to fracture immediately. Luka Doncic is officially a Los Angeles Laker, and the pressure is suffocating. You have to let the gravity of this situation sink in. We are talking about the Slovenian prodigy who grew up worshiping the game, scrubbing floors as a ball boy at EuroLeague games just to be close to the action. This is the same kid who obsessively watched High School Musical 10 to 15 times, mesmerized not by the drama, but by the pure American basketball culture on display. That wide-eyed kid is now draped in the heavy purple and gold armor, standing in the backcourt next to the king, LeBron James. And the beginning, it was deceptively, hauntingly beautiful. Close your eyes and imagine the adrenaline spike walking into that arena, seeing thousands of number 77 jerseys flooding the stands, a sea of gold waiting for a savior. What was going through your mind when the lights went down, you stepped onto that hardwood, and suddenly you and LeBron James were trading alley-oops like you'd been teammates for a decade? How could you possibly process the emotional weight of that night without cracking under the scrutiny? It was something special. The way the city embraced me, the noise, it was amazing to see because, honestly, I was nervous. That was the first time in years I actually felt fear before a tip-off. Luka admitted it right there. His debut in a Lakers uniform wasn't just a game. It was one of the most surreal, out-of-body experiences of his entire existence. The organization went all out, plastering his number 77 jersey on every single seat in the building, forcing every fan to literally hold his legacy in their hands. The crowd erupted with a standing ovation that threatened to bring the roof down, but the real story happened behind the scenes with a move by LeBron that screamed calculated power and grace. LeBron texted Luka that very morning, hours before the lights came on, and offered to let the new kid be introduced last. A sacred spot reserved strictly for the alpha, for the biggest star on the roster. Yeah, he hit me up in the morning. He said, "Whatever you want, it's yours." For a guy like him to text me that, it just shows his character. He was ready to let me have my moment in the spotlight. I really appreciated that gesture. He put the ball in my court, asking me what I wanted to do, giving me the keys to the entrance. He texted, "Whatever you want." So I hit him back and said, "Let me have this one night just today. But from now on, we do it the right way, you go last." That exchange right there, that is what genuine, high-stakes respect between two global icons looks like. LeBron was willing to step aside and surrender the throne for a night, and Luka was smart enough, humble enough, to decline the crown and only take the spotlight for that one singular evening. But once the pleasantries ended and the whistle blew, the chemistry wasn't just good, it was terrifyingly instant. I mean, it's great, you see it. I've never shared the floor with a weapon like this. Getting traded here to LA, it hits different, the atmosphere is different, but playing alongside a legend like him, it's unbelievable. It feels like a cheat code. I'm learning so much, so fast. First off, the off-court discipline, the things he does just to physically survive, and obviously on the court, the world knows he's a different breed. You could hear it in his voice. Luka was absolutely stunned by LeBron's maniacal work ethic. He talked about arriving at the arena early, thinking he was beating everyone, only to find LeBron had been there for hours, drenched in sweat, finishing a full workout before Luka even tied his shoes. Hall of Famer Steve Nash broke it down perfectly, pointing out the scary similarities that make this duo a nightmare for the rest of the league. They are both basketball supercomputers processing the game at a frequency nobody else can hear. They both bully small guards and humiliate big men with equal cruelty. And both of them throw passes that only a tiny handful of human beings in the history of the sport would even dare to attempt, let alone execute. Yeah, and that's a great point. You guys are both wizard-level passers, but I want to dig into the mechanics of it. One thing about your game I've always obsessed over is the late pass. It defies logic. Did you do that as a kid, or is this a weapon you forged later because the play looks dead, it's over, and then boom, you whip it 180 degrees behind you for a three? Where does that vision come from? Was that natural talent, or did you have to train your brain to see the invisible? I think it evolved over time. I definitely didn't have that in my bag as a kid. That came from survival. On the surface, everything looked flawless. Two all-time greats cracking the code, smiling for the cameras. They were building a dynasty. 1 year in, the Lakers are sitting pretty at 10 games over 500, with Doncic putting up MVP numbers, 28 points, 8 assists a night. By every statistical metric, this was a massive victory. A slam dunk, but do not let the highlight reels fool you. Underneath the winning record and the flashy alley-oops, dangerous cracks were already starting to spread through the foundation. And those cracks, they have absolutely everything to do with a controversial rookie named Bronny James. Because while LeBron and Bronny James made history as the first father-son duo to share an NBA court, that narrative brought a storm of distraction that threatened to tear the locker room apart. It began with a collision of history and hype. They first shared the hardwood in a preseason clash on October 8th, 2024, before the real war started in the regular season opener on October 22nd against the Minnesota Timberwolves. For LeBron James, this was the summit of a mountain he had been climbing for 2 decades. It was the moment he had manifested the king, finally sharing his kingdom with his own blood. But the fairy tale shattered the moment the ball tipped. The brutal reality of Bronny's NBA existence has been a cold wake-up call. The numbers from his rookie campaign were nothing short of a nightmare. 27 appearances, a stat line that reads like a ghost, 2.3 points, 0.7 rebounds, and 0.8 assists. He was on the floor for just 6.7 minutes a night, shooting a disastrous 31.3% from the field. Fast forward to season 2, and the stagnation is deafening. The needle hasn't moved. He is scraping by with 1.9 to 2.0 points per game, still stuck in that 6 to 7 minute twilight zone, and this is where the locker room turns into a pressure cooker. Enter Luka Doncic. This is a man who doesn't just ask for greatness, he demands perfection from every soul wearing that jersey. Luka operates in the stratosphere. He plays this game at a level of genius that most players can't even comprehend. So when Luka collapses a defense and gift wraps an open look for a teammate, he doesn't hope you take the shot. He expects you to bury it. No hesitation, no excuses. The breaking point hit November 2025. A gritty night against the Milwaukee Bucks. LeBron was out of the lineup, watching from the sidelines. And Luka's patience with the heir apparent, it officially ran out. Here is exactly how it went down. Bronny gets the nod. He is in the starting five, thrust into the spotlight without his father on the floor to protect him. Luka goes into attack mode, driving hard into the paint, drawing the double team, and whipping a laser pass out to the corner. Bronny is standing there completely alone. We are talking about the kind of look shooters pray for. An NBA three-pointer with 5 feet of daylight in every direction. It was a practice shot, and Bronny froze. He clutched the ball, pump faked at a ghost, drove baseline into traffic, and deferred. You could see Luka snap. He threw his arms up, screaming at the rafters in pure, unfiltered exasperation. And then, the ultimate insult. The very next possession, deja vu. Luka carves them up again, finds Bronny again, and again Bronny refuses to pull the trigger. That is when head coach JJ Redick lost his mind. The microphones caught him screaming from the sideline, "Bronny, you gotta shoot the damn ball." That wasn't just coaching, that was desperation. It peeled back the curtain and showed the world exactly how fed up the coaching staff was with the fear paralyzing their young guard. Even the announcers couldn't hide it. Luka drives deep, kicks to the corner, Bronny gets the start, and he passes it up. The tension was thick enough to choke on, so you have to ask the question, was this disrespect from Luka toward the king's son? Or was this just the raw fire of a superstar who cannot believe his teammate is scared to shoot? If you know basketball, you know the answer. This is the heartbeat of the game. It happens in high school gyms and the NBA Finals. You do the work, you set the table, and your guy doesn't eat, you get mad. That is not toxic, that is competition. But this isn't a normal team. This is Hollywood. Because it is LeBron's son, and because it is Luka Doncic, the new god of Los Angeles, every glare and every shout is magnified 1,000 times over. But if you think the on-court drama was bad, wait until you hear about the war brewing behind the scenes. The press conference snub that felt like a declaration of independence. The incident against the Bucks was just a tremor. The earthquake hit a few months later, and this time, the controversy wasn't about a missed shot. Suddenly, the crosshairs shifted. It wasn't Luka under the microscope, it was LeBron and Bronny James who found themselves at the center of a PR storm. August 2025, the Lakers dropped the bomb. A massive 3-year, $165 million extension for Luka Doncic. This wasn't just a contract, it was a coronation. The organization looked the world in the eye and said, LeBron is the past, Luka Doncic is the future of the Los Angeles Lakers. It was a moment for unity. The entire squad showed up to dap up their leader. The whole roster was there to show respect. Well, almost everyone. 2 chairs were noticeably empty. The 2 biggest names in the building, LeBron James and Bronny James, were nowhere to be found. The King was reportedly hitting the links, enjoying a golf trip. He phoned it in with a video call, a polite gesture, sure, but a screen is not a handshake. It is not presence. The backlash was instantaneous and brutal. The media sharks smelled blood in the water. Legend Dan Patrick went on air and absolutely torched Bronny James. He didn't mince words, emphasizing that when you are the 15th man on the bench, when you are fighting for your life to stay in the league once your dad retires, you do not skip this. You show up. You pay homage to the guy who puts food on the table. Patrick went further, suggesting Bronny should have been the one to grab his father and say, Dad, put down the clubs. We have to be there. Because at the end of the day, when you are the last man on the roster, you don't get the luxury of vacation days during a franchise-altering moment. Your team just committed $165 million to the alpha dog who is going to carry this franchise for the next decade. You stand in the front row. You just show up. Period. But this absence whispered something darker about the power struggle silently raging inside the Lakers organization. For years, LeBron James was the sun this galaxy orbited around. He brought Anthony Davis to the city. He delivered the championship in 2020. He was the system. But now, there is a new sheriff in town. Luka Doncic isn't a sidekick. The tectonic plates are shifting, and figuring out who truly holds the crown is getting messy. Insider Shams Charania called it interesting ground. That is code for trouble. With Luka positioned as the face of the franchise, LeBron is navigating a minefield. It is a delicate dance of egos, legacy, and pride. One wrong move, and the locker room fractures completely. Publicly, LeBron is a PR genius. He says all the right things about passing the torch and empowering Luka. But watch closely. The mask slips. Remember that quote, the one that sent chills down everyone's spine? LeBron looked into the camera and said, "It is Luka's team when I give it to him." That isn't a blessing. That is a warning. It sounds supportive, but the subtext is lethal. I am still the king until I say otherwise. Add in the bizarre off-season behavior, training in shadow gyms, cryptic comments about playing in Europe, and you have to wonder, is the king ready to leave the throne, or is he preparing for a coup? Then came the firestorm, the Stephen A. Smith saga. This wasn't just a headline, it was a collision that shook the foundation of the franchise. While it didn't hit Luka directly, it poured gasoline on the already blazing tension surrounding Bronny's roster spot. Rewind to March 2025, the tension boiled over. LeBron James, the king himself, physically confronted ESPN heavyweight Stephen A. Smith right there on the hardwood. This wasn't a private phone call. This was courtside, in front of the world, moments after a Lakers game. The trigger? Smith's relentless attacks on Bronny's NBA legitimacy. Smith had been tearing into the kid for weeks, claiming Bronny belonged in the G League, not the show, and essentially shouting that the only reason he had a jersey was because his last name was James. LeBron didn't send a rep. He walked straight up to Smith, looked him in the eye, and reportedly delivered a warning that froze the arena. "Stop messing with my son." It was raw. It was personal. Smith later went on air and admitted that the man staring him down wasn't the four-time champion we know. That was a father protecting his blood. That was a parent pushed to the edge. And that specific moment ripped the curtain back on the real dynamic in Los Angeles. When Bronny is involved, the rule book goes out the window. LeBron is a dad first and a basketball icon second. Period. But that fierce, protective instinct, while totally human, creates a volatile chemical mix in the locker room. It creates an incredibly complicated power dynamic. You have your son as a teammate, but you also have a 26-year-old alpha predator in Luka simply waiting to win, and he is going to lose his mind when the rookie hesitates to shoot the rock. Yet, amidst all this noise and fury, there is a narrative the media conveniently ignores. For every headline about tension, there are unscripted moments of genuine brotherhood between this big three. It's not all war. There is real camaraderie here. We've seen the footage, LeBron locking Luka in a playful headlock mid-game. Luka's initial reaction was pure instinct, ready to throw hands, until he realized it was the king, and that snarl turned into a massive grin. Then you have the leaked audio that tells the real story. LeBron and Luka teaming up to absolutely roast an opponent named Quinton Post. You had Luka initiating the trash talk and LeBron backing him up instantly, calling the guy a bum. That is solidarity. That isn't the behavior of two superstars engaged in a civil war. That is chemistry building in real time. That is two legends finding their rhythm. And regarding the rookie, there was a flash of brilliance against the Wizards. Bronny picked a pocket and threw down a thunderous dunk. The camera cut to the bench, and both LeBron and Luka were on their feet, screaming with genuine pride. Or take that preseason moment that went viral, where Luka saw Bronny walking his way, jokingly pivoted to walk off, and then both of them cracked up laughing. That's just locker room banter. That is guys being guys. That is teammates cutting loose. So, looking at the macro view 1 year post-trade, the question isn't can they play together? The scoreboard says yes. The Lakers are stacking wins, and Luka's putting up MVP numbers alongside one of the greatest to ever lace them up. The real terrifying question is, what happens when the king abdicates the throne? Because the second LeBron retires, Bronny's safety net vanishes. Without his father's gravity, without that massive protective shield, Bronny's going to be left on an island, forced to prove he belongs in the NBA strictly on his own merit with zero political cover. And let's be brutally honest, averaging 2 points a game in garbage time makes that a nearly impossible case to win. Even LeBron sees the writing on the wall. When the press pressed him on his timeline, he didn't mince words. He made it crystal clear that his exit strategy involves 3 people: himself, his wife, and his daughter. His teammates, they don't get a vote. He said, essentially, as far as how long I go, zero input from the locker room. The motivation to run with Luka every night, that is super motivating. That is what I train for. To go out there and be the absolute best version of myself for him so we can bounce that energy off one another. But as far as weighing in on when I hang them up, no. That is strictly my decision along with my wife. My 2 boys are already out the door. Well, sort of. One of them is right here on the bench. But Bryce is down in Tucson doing his thing, so he is out of the house. So, when the time comes, it's a round table with me, my wife, and my daughter. It won't be a team meeting. It won't be a democratic vote. That is LeBron keeping it 100% real. Luka is a gift. Playing with a generational talent at age 40 plus is a blessing. But when the curtain falls, it's a family business decision. And when LeBron finally walks into the sunset, whenever that day comes, the keys to the Lakers' kingdom get handed directly to Luka Doncic. Meanwhile, in Dallas, the fallout has been nothing short of a nuclear disaster. It's been catastrophic. Nico Harrison, fired. Anthony Davis, he lasted 31 games before they shipped him off to the Wizards. The assets they got for a generational superstar like Luka have depreciated to almost nothing. The only glimmer of hope in the wreckage is that their tank job landed them the #1 pick and Cooper Flagg, who is tearing up the rookie record books. But go ask any Mavericks fan, would you trade Flagg's potential to have prime Luka Doncic back in a Dallas jersey right now? You already know the answer. They would make that swap in a heartbeat. Thanks for tuning into this deep dive. If you want more high-stakes NBA analysis, smash one of the boxes. On your screen right now, do not miss what we have coming next. But the adrenaline rush is far from over. Right now, on your screen, there is a video revealing the explosive, controversial side of the sport that most people are too afraid to touch. Do you have the guts to see what really happened? Click that link immediately to dive back into the chaos and witness the high-stakes drama that never sleeps.